Hey there, gang. Great to be back with you. I'm joined by my business partner, Ralph Cochran, who's the president of Turley Talks. Many of you know Ralph. He's the brains behind this entire operation here. And we are so excited about our next guest who we're featuring on our Patriot Spotlight series. I want to introduce all of you to Clark Berenger. Clark is a 28-year veteran in law enforcement. He's been chief of police in Quarryville, Pennsylvania. He's a lieutenant from the Lancaster City Bureau of Police. And what Clark is doing is he's stepping up and he's decided to run for, I love this title, the Magisterial District Judge. And he's bringing his experience of law enforcement, administration, counseling, mental health, and all that to fight for freedom in the courtroom. But most of all, you should know that Clark is the husband of 35 years to Christine, and together they have raised 7 children, and now they have several grandchildren. I'm sure he's learning all the names. So the tribe expands. It is such an honor to have you here, Clark. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me, Steve and Ralph. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you. One of the things that really interests us and our audience here and so on is your backstory, the backstory of patriots who step up, who don't have to do this, they don't have to serve, but they feel compelled to do so. It's almost like you cannot not do it. Can you give us a sense of what led you to decide to run for magisterial district judge? Actually, maybe you could start by giving us a sense of what is a magisterial district judge, and then give us a bit of your backstory.
Okay, well, that is a pretty high and lofty title. It used to be just called district justice and shortened to DJ, but it is the first level of the magisterial justice system in any given jurisdiction. This jurisdiction has to be the Cocalico School District area in northeastern Pennsylvania. So every criminal case goes up through this court, and all summary cases are finally adjudicated on this level, but anything misdemeanor and felony wise still has to go through this court to be then either dismissed or moved on to the Court of Common Pleas. It also deals with lots of civil type of disturbances, landlord-tenant type disputes, and so forth, and small claims courts. So that's what this office entails.
Give us a sense of your backstory of what led you to want to run for such a position.
Well, it basically goes all the way back to growing up in the area. This is my hometown. I'm 4th generation here in the Denver area. And I grew up in the church, but growing up in the 70s, I wasn't necessarily at one point living according to my faith. And at age 20, I got serious about what it meant to be a Christian. And that changed my focus completely in life. I wanted to now help people. Up to that point, I was working just in trades, and I wanted to help people. So I went off to college, got a bachelor's degree in psychology, and started working with juveniles in the counseling field at Philhaven Hospital, well-known hospital in the area, and really enjoyed doing what I was doing, helping the juveniles who were troubled, and some of them were, on the verge of going into the criminal justice system, but I was able to, really help be an influence in their life as a Christian, as someone who they could look up to and point them in the right direction. Went on, got a master's degree in counseling from Westminster Seminary, and then went to work as a clinical therapist to finish out 8 years in the mental health field at a local hospital. At that point, I realized I wanted to take my faith and my counseling skills to the streets of Lancaster as a police officer, because I, again, wanted to apply all of that to helping people, which was just instrumental to have that counseling background, because on the streets of Lancaster, I was constantly in the middle of disturbances and disputes where, before the buzzword of de-escalation became anything, I was doing that from day one as a police officer, knowing that my listening skills and communication skills were my greatest tool as a police officer. So the Lord has blessed me with the opportunity to gain all that experience of walking with people from all situations and all walks of life as suspects and victims and so forth. And bring all that experience, not just the courtroom experience that I can talk about in more detail, but to bring all that experience at this point in my life to bear in my community, because my philosophy is that as long as the Lord gives me the health to continue to serve my fellow man, I would love to do that here in my hometown now, adjudicating from the bench what I have fairly and impartially been enforcing for 28 years in law enforcement and helping for 8 years in the counseling field before that.
Yeah, because it's so interesting. You've been on for so many years now on the other side of the law, on the side of law enforcement, with apprehension, processing of suspects, counseling, and so on. What does all that experience bring, do you think, to the judicial side of the process? What do you think? What are the applications of what you've learned thus far to the judiciary?
Well, I think one thing is that I've actually lived the life with these situations. It's not just going to be a textbook learning scenario for me behind the bench. Dealing with bringing justice and mercy, with people, like a win-win situation for me. It was always like, for example, I remember a burglary where an older lady was burglarized, and I was able to figure out who the suspect was, find him, arrest him, bring him in for an interview. And during that interview, get him to understand that, being truthful and suffering the consequences of being truthful was the path to his freedom, even though it meant some time in jail. But he honestly understood that, and I honestly believed that to be the case. And then to be able to have him make a confession and write a letter apologizing to this lady for what he did, because to be burglarized is a terrible feeling of invasion, and people feel very uneasy for a long time after that. So this really helped to bring closure to that victim, and I think freedom to this man who ultimately spent some time in jail as a result.
Wow. And you probably have lots of stories like that, don't you?
More than I can remember. If only I would have journaled every day from the first day on the job till now, I would have story upon story to tell. But you think you'll remember them all, and you just don't.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because we here on this channel, and Dr. Turley is leading this movement to help people understand what freedom looks like. And this, we call it our Patriot's path. And this idea of helping people think better, so then they can establish themselves, lead their communities, families, and churches into freedom. And what you just said there is huge. I mean, I can't even, you're taking someone who's going down the wrong path and help leading them to the right way. And this idea of confession and repentance and reestablishing themselves is a huge restoration thing. And when I first started chatting with you about this and heard about what I remember you had breakfast with me and we're asking like, how do I, campaign, etc. And I just remember some of the stories you shared with me about this, because that connection between your life as a counselor and a police officer is so kind of unique. And now I can only kind of imagine how that's going to just transform into this role as a judge. So I'm just kind of underlying what you just said, and that's very encouraging. And I hope I'm never before you as in your court. But if I was, or if someone I knew was, I would want them to be before a judge like that had that understanding of the human soul and what it means on both the victim side and the criminal side of that.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, it seems like justice really is the blending, as it were, of law and mercy. The human person, the human dignity is always there. How did your counseling help inform you on the particularly on the mercy side of things?
Well, I mean, obviously, it gives me a good understanding of human nature and a lot of the defense mechanisms that people use to try to avoid the truth. But, I believe, the principle that the truth will set you free. I think ultimately that's, from the Bible's perspective, that's talking about ultimately faith in Jesus Christ, him being the truth, setting us free. But I think that principle is absolutely true, that everyone makes mistakes in life. I made mistakes in life. We all do. And when we acknowledge that and repent of that and learn from that, the people in life who will not learn from making those mistakes are the people that, unfortunately, have a really rough life. But you can make some mistakes and repent from that and make changes and still make a productive path for yourself. And the counseling has definitely allowed me that compassionate part to apply to the rule of law, which is ultimately what the judge has to make every decision upon. And Pennsylvania being a commonwealth of precedent, meaning the higher courts have case law that is binding on certain laws that I would have to adjudicate. So there's some, basic guidelines that I would not be able to supersede, but there's room for compassion and mercy. But the ultimate bottom line is, in order to protect the innocent and hold the accountable guilty and protect the constitutional rights of freedom and liberty and property of every person, this judge position has to be one where I listen to both parties impartially and adjudicate based on that law and that case law fairly.
Wow. Yeah. Fascinating. Now, as I understand it, you're self-funding your campaign. Is that correct?
Yes. I just felt on principle, I didn't want to owe anyone anything or have to recuse myself according to the rules within the court system. If someone came before me that was a donor, this allows me to really have no ties to anybody or any ideation, just basically doing with integrity the job that I think the judge needs to be able to do.
That's
fantastic. Ralph, you have any follow-up there?
Yeah, I guess the question I have, I'm thinking for people in our audience they keep asking themselves after what just happened over the past few months and just they're disenfranchised with politics and just government as a whole, and just everything. And they're wondering, like, what do I do is like a big question that just is at the forefront of people we engage with every day. And when they see someone like you stepping up and taking action, I guess my question to you is, like, if you were to encourage people who are on here listening to you, like, and they're asked that question, what do I do? But they're considering maybe running for office or maybe even becoming a judge, etc. What would you say to someone if you were just to, like, go out to breakfast with them and to have let that step back like 6 months, a year ago when you were first kind of thinking through this and some of the advice you wish you had or advice you got? Could you pass that along to some of those people that are maybe right now even thinking about this idea of what do I do? And should I even begin down this path of maybe running for office in my community in whatever form that might look like?
Well, that's a sort of a multifaceted question, but the first thing that comes to my mind as I've been diligently going door to door, trying to meet people and let them know who I am and what my qualifications are, is I'm finding people so disillusioned by what just happened in the general election that they don't even want to vote at all. So to those people, I understand the frustration, but here's an opportunity to come out on May 18th in the primary election and vote for something they can basically have real control on that impacts their immediate life, because this is the judge position for their area that would deal with any criminal and or civil issues, whether or not they ever have to appear before the judge or not. If justice isn't done on this level, the whole community suffers as a result. And if they want the best candidate, they need to come out and vote. Maybe just to go on to say that, that I think we all need to be willing to have the courage to go forth and do the difficult things, be willing to, maybe not be politically correct at times in order to do the right thing, because it's what the law says, and not, cower to any pressures from one side or the other, but just when you picture that Lady Justice statue with the blindfold on, I mean, it has to be impartial and fair, and that's what I would do.
What was it with you, with your family, and just making the decision to run for judge? How was it with you in the decision process leading up to that? And again, I'm kind of coming back to that. If I was to sit you down for a lunch or breakfast and say, hey, Clark, I'm thinking about running for office, what should I do first? Did you have a conversation with your wife, or was it someone else that kind of, what was some going on with you? And I'm asking that again to kind of encourage people who might be sitting on the fence right now thinking about possibly running for office.
Well, I mean, jokingly, I could say that, when you raise 7 children, you're sort of a judge and jury, and everything, all at once, so I didn't even throw that experience into the mix here. But I think my wife was very instrumental in helping me realize that, it would be a terrible waste to not put my 36-year combined career in counseling and law enforcement to work in this capacity for our community. The magisterial judge who is retiring was here for 42 years. So this is a new time for our community, and I think, again, it's going to be really important for the voters to do their homework and vote for the person that has the most experience, because in this position, experience really, really matters.
Fantastic.
Magnificent.
Yeah, I think he has a website too, Steve.
I was just going to say, if we can't thank you enough for spending time with us. If people want to get more information on you, or perhaps even get involved with what you're doing, where can they go to get some more info?
My website is www.beringerforjudge.com. So I don't know if you have a way of putting that out there.
We'll put a link below right here. It's right down there. People can go there and show them your support. Follow. I think you have a Facebook page too, and some other things. Even some people are still allowed to be on Facebook. But,
I haven't been canceled yet, so trying to abide by the rules as a judge. So.
Definitely everyone go on there and also follow him on Facebook. Encourage him, send him some PM messages there and tell him. I know we had someone on just about a week ago, and I asked him, hey, how's it going since? And he says, I just spent 4 hours. I had about 400 people contact me from all over the world, just encouraging him. So I'm giving a little heads up warning there. So and if you live in Calico Creek area, please vote here. But this is also something too. It's a big encouragement for people in our audience that are just wanting to see just normal everyday folk, patriots, stepping up and taking action. And you're a huge encouragement to Steve and myself. And I know for those watching this right now, they're just going to be so excited. And I know in the comments below, you're going to see a lot of people just enthralled with what you're doing. And you're not alone. And we're praying for you. And I know you're out knocking on doors every day. And he was telling me his schedule, Steve. It's nuts. He's waking up super early in the morning and then gets home from work. And then he goes back out on the street knocking on doors and goes to bed. And 9, 10 at night and wakes up again at 5, 6 in the morning and starts all over. It's just, that's like, isn't that your schedule like the past month or two?
Oh, it's earlier than that. It's
Okay.
4:15, and
Okay.
whatever time I get to bed, and then I start it over. And I've certainly never appreciated the Sabbath as much as I do today. I really do, because I don't do any of the campaigning on the Lord's Day. But yeah, it's been grueling, but it's been wonderful meeting the people that we've met. My wife and I, she goes with me. She has the books as to where we're going, and I couldn't do this without her. She's been a great help, and the kids are all been supportive. And but it's been a pleasure meeting people. I really have enjoyed that. I'll miss that, but I won't miss the grueling schedule. How's that?
Yeah,
That's good.
sure. Yeah,
Awesome.
well, thank you. Thanks so much, Clark. We can't thank you enough for your lifetime of service and to your family, to your community. It's such a blessing to know we have people like yourself who are willing to stand up for faith, family, and freedom. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you.